Hey everybody, it's the Real Estate Roundtable channel, and today we have Don Costa as our wonderful guest here in Sacramento. What's going on, Don?
How's it going?
You did an amazing presentation today. You had a packed house here at the Fulton 80, and I took 2 pages of notes because the information that you were giving out today was dynamite.
I appreciate that, but I've heard it wasn't 3 pages.
2 pages, 3 pages. Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of notes. And what was really interesting about your presentation was like, this is stuff I don't do.
Right.
What made you kind of go into the presentation of things to not do?
You know, well, it's twofold. One is I think everybody always talks about what they do in their business that makes them successful. And yeah, I wanted to differentiate myself when I talk to people, you know, about what I do. And I think that is kind of like, it makes you stop and think. That's maybe a tactic in speaking, but in all honesty, it really is the core of why my business is successful. You know, it's the things I don't do. It's the things I say no to. They always say that sometimes the deals you make the most money on are the ones you don't do, right? That's kind of a saying. And, you know, I kind of took that to heart, and that goes across my business, that the rules where we say no tend to be the things that keep us out of trouble, that keep things running smoothly.
So, Don, one of the biggest things, my aha moments from your presentation was making a decision from the power position instead of the weakness position. And I think that a lot of people kind of get into this weakness position and then they start really doing bad deals. What was the turning point, or when did you really like kind of have that moment where you're like, I'm just going to make decisions from power? That's huge, because a lot of people are like, oh my God, I'm so desperate, you know, lower the price and da-da-da, and they don't really have a game plan. And you can just see them coming from weakness and just having the mindset like, oh, okay, today, like I'm coming from a position of power. I mean,
it's a game changer.
That's huge, right? I mean, how did you kind of learn about coming to making decisions from power?
I don't know, maybe it was an aha moment in my life. Maybe it was the fact that I'd lost everything before. I don't know. It's just something that I do now, and I don't know when the transition was, because it wasn't always the case. It wasn't something I was always doing. So I think it was, you know, one of the things I'm really good at is reading people.
Okay.
And what I noticed, I can read body language really, really well, almost instinctively.
Okay.
And what I noticed was, you know, when I would talk to people, when I come and pitch, like lenders, primary lenders, I always use the example. When I come to pitch a deal, I would lose them. When I come with a bunch of information, credibility packet, I would lose them. But when I come and just be myself and have a conversation, they would be engaged. And I realized that I was the horse they were betting on. At the end of the day, it was about me. It wasn't about the project. That if I was dialed in, that if I was the person that they wanted to back, that the project would be a no-brainer for them. And so that was, I think it was when that dawned on me. You know what I'm saying? So, and then that kind of related to everything else.
You have is that like a Dawnism? That's when it dawned on me.
Dawnism. The flip-talkism.
Flip-talkism. Is it hard for you to say no?
Not anymore.
Did it used to be?
It used to be, yeah. It used to be. We want to say yes to everything and every situation and try to be amendable and helpful. And I just found that I was jumping through hoops constantly and not happy and not making people happy. And I found a lot more success by just kind of setting boundaries. You know?
Cool.
Yeah.
And like, where were you in your business when you started setting boundaries?
Well, we started back up in 2012. It was probably around the beginning of 2015, where we just had a few breaking points. You know, for instance, like we had a private money lender that every time we turned around, he was asking for a favor. We thought we had to do these favors to keep them happy.
Right.
You know, and then the favors turned into we were working for free a lot. You know, and it's little things like that. Like I talk about all the time, I'm a failure, right? I'm a screw up. I make a lot of mistakes. A lot of these things don't come out of the fact that I'm a smart guy. They come out of the fact that, well, I don't want that to be my life anymore.
Right.
You know, I don't want that to be the way my business is run anymore. That really sucks, and I don't want to feel that way anymore. You know, that's where a lot.
Nor should it. You know. Yeah. You know, kind of, it's like, okay, I learned my lesson, like, I'm not going to do that again.
Right.
Is that kind of where it's
essentially,
at? Yeah. Don't hire the experience.
Mm-hmm.
You want people that are green that you can develop. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. the catalyst of that is usually you're looking for somebody that has 10 or 15 or 20 years experience, right, and in whatever part of the business that they're in. And a lot of times that brings bad habits and know-it-alls, or people who want to do it their way or think that they know better. And I don't feel that is a good way of establishing a structure and a culture in your organization. And so, and this is one of those things where it's like I tried hiring the experience, it didn't work. And so I realized when I looked at my organization, we actually had an internal conversation like, well, who are the best people? And they were all people who did not have any experience in that position. My project manager, he was a nightclub manager. He was a good manager of people, and he was really good with people. He's much better with people than I am. And so he's able to ask people to do things and have them happy to do things for him because of who he is as a person.
And how he communicates with people.
And how he communicates. Mm-hmm. He's also extremely hardworking and loyal, which is something that's impossible to teach. So, he came into my organization when I shouldn't have hired anybody. He wanted to be part of it. I painted a picture of what we were going to become as a company, told him I couldn't pay him what he was worth, and he followed me, into this organization. And I developed him into who he is as a project manager. And so looking at him and looking at a few other people in our organization, that tends to be the trend. And so, and granted, even though we knew that was a trend, sometimes we tried to go back to hire the position and it didn't hire the experience, and it didn't always work. So, just through trial and error, we learned that, hiring the experience is not a good thing. Hiring the person is.
I kind of feel like you're even saying you can hire a really good attitude.
Yeah, well, yeah, you want to hire somebody who can make a decision, who's willing to make a decision. You want to hire somebody who is teachable and coachable, and, you go to them and you say, hey, you made a mistake here. They're not like, oh, I need a Xanax, my whole world's going to fall apart. I have to go home and drink a bottle of wine. You don't want that person. I had an employee that thought she was going to cut me every time I tried to counsel her on something that wasn't right. And literally, we had a running joke in my office that at one point, was I going to get shanked? So
what a wonderful working environment.
Exactly. So you don't want that. You want somebody because we don't present and oh, you made a mistake and you suck and go home because you're stupid. We don't do that. We go and we say, hey, there was an issue here. I think you should do it this and this way. Do you have any suggestions of maybe how you do it differently next time? And if I'm taking the effort to have that conversation and they can't take that conversation as a teaching moment for them, then they don't belong in our organization. So, and that's with the experience, you usually find somebody that goes, well, it's the way I've always done it. But the way you've always done it's wrong. Right. For my company. Like, for instance, transaction coordination is different when you're a flipper than when you are working for a realtor, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Well, yeah. We're driving timelines. We're much more aggressive. So it's different. And that's the
right. Truth. Yeah. So I also wrote down hustle is overbuild. You're over the hustle and you wanted to build your business and getting out of survival mode. Can we talk a little bit about that and where that kind of flipped for you?
I was in survival mode for a little while. I was broken. I was broke and I was desperate. I was in a low spot. One of the things I didn't share is I actually literally sat in a recliner in my living room for a year feeling sorry for myself after everything fell apart. The last business I lost was the restaurant nightclub. I had opened a restaurant and nightclub, and I dumped everything into that trying to hold it together when everything else was falling apart around me. And finally walked away from that and sat in a chair for a year and pretended I was tired when my wife got off work, and I'd been working so hard all day trying to find a job, but I lived in this bad place, and really bad place. And anyway, the whole point is I was so busy trying to hold everything together, and hustling and trying to keep the water on, trying to keep the lights on, and I'd come home, the water would be off, and stuff like that. And you focus, when you're in survival mode, you focus on these problems, and you get proud of yourself. Like, I was proud that I was broke, but I was still holding it together. Our house is in and out of foreclosure, but we didn't lose it. All those things I was finding pride in as a hustler. And it wasn't until a handful of moments in my life where I realized that that wasn't anything to be proud of. Hustling, being a hustler. I don't mean that in a way that, we're always hustling in business, right? But it's the just trying to do this to hold that together, and do that to hold this together, hustling kind of stuff. that
it's kind of like a treadmill.
Yeah, that I had to let go of, and I realized that I had to. I just had to become that person that was going to succeed. I had to focus on success. I had to own my value. I had to work for bigger things. You know, the problems were always going to be there if I was always trying to fix them. I had to work on bigger things. And it wasn't until I took that step to work on bigger things that the problems started going away.
Yeah, you said I acted as if I already had success.
I acted as if I already had success. I put myself in the mindset that I was going to be who I wanted to be. You know, when I went from, 30, 40 houses a year to over 100 houses a year, I just decided that's who I was going to be.
That's you. That's your identity.
That's my identity, and it's the same thing when we're pushing the 200 mark. That I just made that decision. Now my goal for 2019 is to gross $1 million a month, and I'm.
Boom! I like it.
I'm deciding I'm going to be that guy, and don't get me wrong. It's like there's that moment where it's like, well, how dare you? In my head, right?
Right, your ego's kind of going like, who do you think you are? $1 million a month, right?
Right. It's like, how dare you? You've never done that in your life. Who do you think you are? Blah, 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 blah. I have those moments. At this point in time, I just choose to ignore those moments, I guess.
And what do you really listen to kind of get you to that,
Well, I mean, I think like most people, you always have those moments of prayer, and you have those moments of, I think reflection where you look in the mirror and you just say, hey, man, get your head straight. But at the same time, I always use the example, I think I used it when we did the Facebook Live, your mind's like a dog. You can tell it what corner to pee in.
I really liked it, yeah.
You can train your mind, and that's the crazy things about entrepreneurs. I was going to launch a podcast where I was going to interview entrepreneurs about the voice in your head and how you battled it when you were getting going and how you overcame it. And as I started recording episodes of that, and I realized it was going to be impossible to do because those of us who become successful don't remember how our minds work. Like we've so ingrained ourselves into a positive mental attitude and into strength in our mind that when you ask about an obstacle or a challenge, we're like, that's just an opportunity.
Say what? Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because your mind is already reprogrammed to think success. Right?
How you look at everything is just different.
Yeah, and what I also really like is, and you kind of said a couple times, don't make fail a 4-letter word. Mm-hmm. And letting your team make mistakes and fail and kind of be like a father figure and let them learn as you develop the people. Letting people make mistakes, is that kind of hard?
It was incredibly hard. Getting out of the way, getting out of my own, I guess ego would be the word of, if I don't have my hand in it, it's not going to be done right. Like I had to let all that go. And it was the hardest thing I think I ever did as an entrepreneur was getting out of the way and letting people make mistakes, getting out of the way and letting people make decisions. My company, my team makes decisions all the time. What we're going to buy, what we're going to wholesale, what we're going to rehab, whether or not we accept an offer. All those decisions are made without me. And are they perfect? They're not perfect. They may make more money than I would have made on some of the decisions. May have made more money than we make as a company if I would have made the decisions on some of them. It's imperfect, but you know what I have? I have my sanity, I have my life, I have my freedom, and I have a fantastic team. So, that's at the end of the day, I think the trade-off is worth it.
So you're going on vacation, sounds like.
Yeah, well, I'm always big on personal development. I'm in a mastermind organization, so I'm going to be in Denver next week for a week up in the snow at Keystone, skiing and masterminding. I'm going to South Africa in May again, hanging out and doing safari and masterminding.
So everywhere you travel, it's a mastermind.
Not everywhere. And at the end of July, at the end of June, I go to for a week camping, and then for almost the entire month of July, I take off. Usually we go to Disneyland and vacation and different stuff like that. So I actually spend a lot of time traveling away from the office at this point in time, and my business still runs without me, which is crazy.
Which is the goal. Right.
I get end-of-day reports from different people. Once a week, I get a report on what's coming in and what's projected, like I showed on the screen, so I know where we're at, as far as revenue goes. So I get reports, but I'm also able to put my phone down for an entire week of camping and never check it and not have to worry about it. So.
And I bet your family really likes that.
They do. Yeah, they do. So I don't know that my family realizes the opportunity they have, with me being able to be present.
Really? Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of hard to balance that family work life.
Right.
And it sounds like you really nailed it.
I try.
The strike list. I really like this because you're really good at setting boundaries on what you like and what you expect.
Right.
Strike list. No garages. It's not striked out. You want a house with a garage.
Well, no, let me elaborate.
Okay.
If it has 2 strikes, we don't do the deal. So the numbers change, right?
Okay.
If it has 2 strikes, the numbers change. If you have 2 identical houses and one is, say, inside a neighborhood and one's on a busy street.
Okay.
Okay, so the busy street is 1 strike. And say
Right.
the one inside the neighborhood has no garage. Well, that's 1 strike.
Okay.
Both of those are doable deals. And then generally they'll sell for about what any other type of house would sell for in their area, right? But if this is on a busy street with no garage, people are going to want a fairly significant discount for that. Apparently, being on a busy street and having a garage is important. I'm not entirely sure why myself.
Because people are looking at your cars and if they want to steal them.
So, so you start looking at that, and it's not just like no garage. Is it a funky layout you can't correct? A funky layout would be a strike. Is there something with the facade of the house, the curb appeal that you can't correct? Well, that would be a strike. High end would be a strike. Anything that limits your buyer pool, it would be a strike, because you want your house, just like when you rehab, right? You don't want to go all HGTV and make it so...
Everybody wants to do that.
No.
Everyone thinks they're an HGTV star.
I'm not. I'm a bottom line star. That's what I am. So I would much rather save the money than have the prettier house. But the point I'm trying to make is everybody tries to personalize the design and make it over the top. And sometimes that doesn't always appeal to the buyers. So in your designs, you want to stay neutral, right? Well, it's the same thing when you start looking at the location and whether or not it has a garage or,
what else? High end. When you say high end, what's the price range for high end?
It depends on the market, right?
Okay.
So in Fresno, anything over $350 would be kind of considered high end. If you're getting over $400 to $500, that would definitely be high end.
Okay.
And high end needs a specific buyer. Not everybody can afford high end.
And I'm definitely seeing the market slow down.
Right.
In the 450 and above.
Right.
And so more days on market, more costs, and that's a strike.
That's a strike. And a more specific buyer pool, and the rehab has to be, much more straight lines must be straight. The quality of the product must be better. Rehabs take longer, and so the houses tend to take longer to sell. I stay out of high end for a lot of other reasons, and just the fact it's a strike. The cash on cash return isn't as good because you're in the project longer, and you can do 2 or 3 or 4 houses that are lower end and make more money usually at the same time frame.
The same price too. 4 houses versus one luxury house. Don't pay on demand. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
This is the power position. They're not going to, they demand from you. No, you got to demand for them. And that's how you do deals. You got to own the deal is really my biggest takeaway. You got to own the deal. You got to know your numbers. You got to know your shit from A to B to C to D. And you got to have, what I really liked about it is you're I want complete control of the entire thing. We use our own photographers. We have our own listings. You got to be pre-approved. This is what you need if you want to do business with me. And that's probably what makes the difference between you and, Joe wholesaler or someone that's just kind of starting off. You really have to demand kind of a level of expertise and authority and seriousness for them to even do a deal with you.
Yeah, we do. For anybody to buy a property from us, for anybody to sell a property to us, we have certain expectations that, it keeps things running smoothly. Mm-hmm. And so we want people to fall in line, not so much because we're control freaks, but it's just because we've seen what happens to deals and stuff and how they blow up at the end if you don't have the control up front. If you don't set the expectation, it's like anything else. I think even in marriages, and I didn't do it because I was young, but if you had a talk about what if this and what if that, you set the expectation, I think they go a lot better, right? Business partnerships, if you had the hard talk about, well, what happens if this blows up? Or what happens if that blows up in the beginning and got those things out of the way? I think those things would go a lot better. And it's the same thing with everything in our business. We do the advanced agreements, we set the expectation, and that way when we run into issues, they're easy to navigate and not these big blow up problems. So
You're avoiding problems.
We're avoiding problems. We're setting boundaries so that we have control, and that helps us manage everything just that much better.
And you're really setting up the people that you work with to win.
Absolutely.
Which makes people want to work with you even more.
Absolutely.
You know, everyone wants to feel like they're doing a good job, they're going to get paid on time, they want that trust. And by having a system in place, you know, you're a credible person to do business with in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Right. And everybody gets paid faster and paid on time.
Everybody loves to get paid faster.
And
everybody loves to get paid on time. Right?
So it makes more sense.
Yeah, let's kind of go into, you had this whole thing with contractors and how you don't do deposits or draws and you pay weekly, and how you have them submit an invoice on Friday to set goals for the next Friday. I love that.
Right.
That's gold right there.
Right. Yeah, that came out of, being run around crazy, running back to the office trying to sign checks. And the whole no deposit thing and not doing draws came out of just bad experiences with contractors. I think a lot of us have had. And I realized that, our concern as investors is we're worried that contractors aren't going to show up or get a deposit.
Right.
They're going to screw us over, right?
They kind of need an accountability and motivation.
But their concern is, the good contractor's concern is, hey, I'm going to put this time and money out, and then you're not going to pay me.
Right.
And so, as many contractors that have screwed over flippers and rehabbers or homeowners, there's just as many flippers and rehabbers that screwed over contractors. Every time we talk to contractors, we always get some that say, look, I've worked with flippers before, you guys don't pay on time, I've been stiffed. So I realized that their concerns and our concerns are aligned. They're aligned. You got to frame them, and you got to frame the conversation in a manner that helps them understand that your goals are the same. You want to be paid. We want to make sure the work is done.
You just want to be on the same team.
You want to be on the same team. So I can guarantee you payment every single week. You got to guarantee me you're done, and I'm going to pay you for what you finished every single week. And that's where that came from.
That works.
Yeah.
People like that.
Yeah.